Hello everyone. It's been probably a few weeks since I did a video, so I decided to go ahead and make one today. It's the hours leading up to SVS, and we're facing a really good opponent. Real quick before I get into this, because I kind of want to discuss some PvP type stuff. I talk a lot about defense, so right now I'm moving on and making my attack and PvP marches the priority, and I'll get into that a little bit more when we get there. I just wanted to talk. There have been some comments about sub generals, and I do get where people come from, because they're looking to debuff just one thing. Probably, because I wouldn't really recommend using a sub general that's just going to debuff one area, unless, like, if you're free to play, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit too in my PvP discussion. If you're free to play, it changes. Yeah, a much better mind for the game than some. Looking at some of the stuff here. Anyway, so like the question was, oh well, Jackson's better than Baldwin, and here's my deal. Like as far as like overall ranged, I would have to go ahead and agree with that. But when you're looking at the big picture, unless you're like a non-coiner and 100%, like you're never going to coin, then yeah, like I would build a Jackson to fight the Archer. But the one thing you need to understand, if you're going to build into a big keep and you want to push for all-stars and success and Shalons and things like that, you're going to want to be able to debuff siege attack, ranged attack, siege HP, and ranged HP at an extremely high level. I mean, like cutting 4,500 in half, because the buffs are probably going to push to 5,000 even before they open up level 50. And I don't even like to put that out there, but there's talk of it, and of course Evony isn't saying anything. It's basically all speculation. But if you look at this game and you look at what's in KOA, which was the original game of this type, King of Avalon, you will see that a lot, especially recently, a lot of stuff that Evony has put in is stuff that's pretty much been taken from KOA. Irregardless of who's going to see this and who's going to put up the red flags, the Elder Dragon idea, KOA. Except it's a lot easier and a lot cheaper to get it there. The Feast event is an event that is in KOA as well. The rewards are much better in KOA for that as well. So, and when I started playing that just to see what all the noise was about, I asked them right away the first week. I said, well, what's the highest keep level? And they said 50. So, I mean, we can pretty much guess where this is going, right? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So this, let me get into this point real quick. And I do understand, like, if you're a trap or if you're a player that's not going to coin, Andrew Jackson is a really good option. I would say Nero would be a good option. And if you feel like you're going to face Cav rallies, Margaret has value. She's not... I mean, none of these are like elite generals that players that are spending a lot of money are going to use, most likely. But I've kept on to my Margarets just in case she becomes something down the road, because we all got rid of Nero and then he became like a really key sub-general. So with that being said, I would say hold on to everything. I don't get rid of any generals. Even like Goose card, which I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I feel like he's a good general somehow, some way. Like, I kind of want to like find something to tell me that he's a good general, but I haven't been able to find that yet. So the search continues. So what I want to talk about, Jackson, and these generals. Like, if you're gonna build into a big keep, and maybe you're not coining, or maybe you're thinking like kicking it around, like you're at a point where you're feeling like you're not going to be able to get accomplish what you want to accomplish without coining, and someday you're going to go ahead and start doing that. Like, if it's what you have to work with, it's what you have to work with, and I don't like fault anyone for that. You're smarter than a lot of us that have spent way too much money on this game. And that's okay. Like, I've got quite a few people in my server that, they spent a fair amount of money early on, and now they've changed their build, and they've gone to either a trap and or a low tier based defense. I myself am an interesting defense. Anyway, so when you look at this, and let's look into here. So, portraits, America. So with Jackson, I mean, you're going to get a solid, range troop attacks by 20%, the amount of troop HP by 20. But what we were discussing was the archer, and then of course the standard troop attack. I don't think there's anything really there, and ranged attack 30. So, 50%. That's a good place to start. And then when we go in here, unfortunately, the first three are all ground and mounted. So we're going away from the main part of his special skill. But then when we get down to 4 and 5, we do get more ranged troop attack once, and then again, and then ground and mounted. So we're not really touching any of the archer or siege HP, and we're not touching, no siege buffs at all. And this is where the value comes, because if you become a bigger player, this is something that is going to be a big difference, and you're going to realize, I can't use this sub-general because all my slots are full, and I'm not really debuffing siege HP, ranged HP, siege attack. Like, there's a lot that's off the table that I need, because if you don't have siege machines and you're built strong everywhere else, they're going to send siege and annihilate your archers, because there's not really any siege. You don't have very much siege to stop them. And if you do have siege, and a lot of siege, now you become a liability, because you're not debuffing the attack, HP, or defense in really any manner at all, or not nearly strong enough to come out ahead on that. And people talk about reigns, and reigns can help, but also I've seen keeps that are bad keeps with their debuffs, and even if the buffs are so-so, if you're not cutting it, you're taking the full brunt almost of that hit. So when we look at Baldwin, we get range troop by 30 and siege attack by 20 right off the rip. So you're on the siege part of it, you're already ahead with him. And then when we look through his kit, it's all based on range and siege. So attack 5%, HP 10% on both, defense 10% on both, which isn't really crucial, but as you get bigger and you're facing elite teams, the defense debuff actually will be relevant. We go again, range and siege HP, 15%. And then the deaths to survival, which becomes important. I mean, all of them have that, but it becomes important for you to keep your debuffs. Range and siege machine attack. 10% defense, 10%, so you get a little bonus there. And range and siege attack, defense, and HP, 10%. So there's like a lot of extras here on the ranged type of troops. And again, it's not shade at anyone that, you either don't have them, you don't have the ability to get them. And honestly, in most cases, you're probably going to be better off for the free-to-play that you can completely awaken over a really solid sub-general that you're not going to be able to, or it would take you years and years and years to be able to awaken one of them. So I get it, and some players are going to have to do the whatever siege debuff generals you can get, and you're going to be limited. There's options as well. I think it's Catherine, and I think there's another one that does siege HP. I actually think it's King Sejong, because I looked and I was like, oh, well, there's two of them that are in the tavern. And of course Nero. And Nero would be like the best choice if you can get him, because he debuffs all HP. So, and I use Nero. There's nothing wrong with Nero at all, in my opinion. I think probably almost every player in the game that's like caught on is using him. And down the road, maybe someone will replace him, but I don't think I will, because for us middle of the road coiners, there comes a point when you're like, all right, enough's enough. I've had the success that was really most important to me, and it's time to move on. So that's my take on that. Just like wall generals, when I talk about my defense, I say, you want a wall general that's even. Same thing for sub generals. You're going to get a lot more value on sub generals that are going to debuff more than one area. So consider that, especially if you're going to build one, because I've done it a bunch of times, and there's nothing worse than having a sub general almost all the way built, and then you start to do your deep thinking in the game, and you're like, oh man, there's this, and this that I really, really need, and I can't do it with the combo that I have. So, and this is going to roll back into what I want to discuss with PvP generals as well, because, so here's the thing, you'll see my Senate generals, and I don't want you to focus on the ones that are all red, like that. I've done a lot of awakening. And these are all generals that I've used. Like, I use these generals. And my point in this is, like, I used Electra till fairly recently. And then I went to Subutai. And I really liked him because March size, a little bit better buffs. And he does work everywhere. So I was like, oh, well, I can use him. He's perfect for joining rallies and as a reinforcement. But you play with what you have. So if you have, let's say, William Wallace, or like whatever siege general you have, whatever archer general you have, and you know that you're going to be able to awaken them in time, do that, build that, because the important part is that the rally setter has good buffs, because as it's been explained to me, the rally setter buffs is what applies in the rally. So with that being said, all anyone can ask of you is do the best with what you have. And the one thing is, with assistants, we're always going to keep getting better and better generals. And for those of us that are trying to keep up, we're going to keep redoing generals. So what you do, the ones that you can awaken, make that your main. And then when a good one comes along that's going to be an asset to you, like Ragnar. So I got him, and I mean, I felt like he was significantly better. And I had Marcus Agrippa completely done, who was my rally joiner. before, and they matched. So my thought process was, hey, I can make these two into my main march for now, and also I have Merlin max spec and quite a bit of Covenant done on him. So I was like, down the road, I can change. Like when I figure out who I want for a second Archer march, like then I can put Merlin in. And I've struggled to get some of this stuff done. Like I've got quite a bit of Covenant that it's simply going to be really hard and expensive to get this without having Melisande, if that's how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure I butchered it, but so my point on this is, when you have a general that you have the ability to awaken, just do that. And if, let's say you get a good general and you get a few copies, like, just break them down into the pieces and save them, and then they're going to be there if you ever get to where you're like, oh, well, I've now have enough pieces to awaken this general, and then you can slowly work on that, but it doesn't need to be a priority. So that's pretty much my take on it. The rally setter is the most important to have the best buffs, and of course high rally size and those types of things. For you as a rally joiner, do better buffs mean more kills? Absolutely. So you're going to make the best that you can with what you have. And that's all we can really ask. Like I tell my teammates all the time, it's, I'm never going to have buffs like yours, but I can do this, and this, and I can make my joining march the best that I can. And that's all you can do. Now, since I think I've got a little bit of time left before my recorder phases me out, when going into SVS, and this is just what I do, but it's just kind of a primer. It's like recon for SVS. So you go in and you're gonna see who you're fighting. And I'm just gonna flash into it. I don't want to share everything about these guys. So that way the next people, but this is pretty much not common knowledge. First I go into the Monarch Power and I see how many big keeps there are. And I can pretty much guess that anyone over 12 billion is probably going to have good buffs. And they're going to be joining the rallies most likely. And then just, they're going to cross reign. But then I'll go into the general ranking. And so when you're a big keep, the first thing they're going to hit you with is siege. So I'll go through and I'll see how many good siege generals they have. And these guys are solid. They have great generals. Because I'll look at my generals, and my generals aren't real high. They're at 10.8. So I'm pretty much of the thought that, okay, well, these guys are going to be at least equal or better buffs than what I have. So when you look and you see a lot of good siege generals, if possible, it's best to see if you can get a test report. But that's what I do, and that's how I base how I want to play if I'm going to play, because these guys, they're solid. The last time we played them, they did hit me, and I was positive on the siege rally. But I'm not basing that on anything, because at a minimum that was 4 months ago, and a lot happens in 4 months. And honestly, I think we played Siegfried's server in the last Shalon's, or it was a Shalon's SVS. So I know it's been at least 8 months. So I can't really take that report into account for anything. So just a few things I wanted to touch on, and hopefully this does help you. Be diverse, just like with your wall general. Be diverse with your sub generals as well. And then don't stress out too much on your PvP and trying to compare yourself with the strongest players in your server, because you're doing yourself a big injustice. I'm a bigger player, and a lot of people across servers and continents know me, And I tell them all the time, I was like, yeah, I hope no one's ever expecting me to have anywhere near elite buffs, because you are going to be disappointed. But I'm getting to the point where I am starting to, and I'm doing some advanced refining, and it needs a lot of work. It's pretty ugly right now. And I don't know why I did the Augustus gear. I misunderstood how it worked. I thought by all troops it meant every gear that you advance refine work, like that adds 2 buffs everywhere, and that was really dumb. So don't do that. But I'm going to sign off. I hope this video was at least moderately informative, and I'm going to try to keep putting out high quality content as I can.